What up, Hyperchange? Welcome to another episode. Saturday morning, 7:15 a.m. here in Seattle. A little tired, no coffee yet, but we're doing it big. I have an awesome shoot lined up with one of my buddies from high school who has a startup that removes milfoil, basically this algae in the lake. He started it when we were in school. Now it's turned into this awesome little business outside of the box. And so we're gonna go to the project site today. It's gonna be epic. Let's roll. Joe, the Milfoil king.
So, let's go check a few more and see what we can get.
Here's the truck, about to load it up. Wetsuits.
Alright, where's this guy? What's going on?
There you are, guys, here.
Yeah. Got this. Salvaged it from the Seattle Tennis Club.
We're inner tubing?
Official surface person, man. They have to have
the official surface person.
This is...
Wow.
Surface sports gotta have the right gear.
Electric motorcycle cameo. So is this HQ for Seattle milfoil removal? Or just like storage unit?
Yeah, this is the official garage for it. Yeah.
These are steel?
Yeah, they're steel tanks. Well, because like when you use up all the air on like an aluminum tank, the tank gets lighter and you get more buoyant.
Like how long are you gonna stay underwater?
I mean, today will be a short job, so probably only 30-40 minutes.
Where did you learn about all this?
Man, I've been scuba diving since I was 12.
So scuba diving.
Yeah.
So this is basically like the industrial version of scuba diving.
Yeah, this is on the commercial side of scuba diving.
So this is way more legit than the tanks they give you in like Australia when you go to the coral reef. Or like
depends how legit your dive shop is. That eats decomposed plant matter.
Muckaway?
Yeah, so
do you use that for milfoil?
If you live in an inlet or a bay, and you don't take care of your milfoil problem, every year it grows and then it decays. Basically, it's all about controlling the light. So when there's no more light in the winter, the plant dies and decays to the bottom. And if you do that year over year, you can lose a couple feet of your depth in front of your dock.
And that's just like gross, like decayed milfoil.
It's disgusting.
So what is milfoil?
There's a couple different varieties of it, but milfoil is basically the blanket term for invasive freshwater aquatic foliage.
So invasive algae?
It's non-native plants that grow really aggressively.
Oh, so it can be a wide variety of...
Because there are native plants that are not milfoil. One of the ones that, like, I'm working with this guy, Dr. Gary Larkin, to figure out how to use this stuff called coontail. It's like a vine that grows along the bottom of the lake. And you can use it to kind of prevent milfoil growth if you get it in there first.
Nice. So how do you know what plants are milfoil and what are like not milfoil?
Generally, if it grows in the water column that's affecting swimming, it's generally milfoil. So it's fairly easy to tell. It's pretty cut and dry. That being said, it's one of the only plants that even conservationists want to get rid of. Why?
Just because it's like killing the fish and like...
There's a number of reasons. It starves. It takes oxygen out of the lake. It starves fish habitat. And then if you prevent too much of it, it stagnates the water and larvae starts to grow and you can get a mosquito infestation.
So if you want to maintain a pristine lake bed, you do not want milfoil. Or like a nice lake in front of your house.
Yeah, it's basically one of those things you definitely don't want, but what's interesting in the Northwest is it hasn't been a long-term problem. It's been like a very recent problem for a lot of the different areas. Yeah, it's a global warming proof business.
It's like global warming leveraged business.
Yeah.
What are these things? Is this to hold people down?
Oh my god,
it's so heavy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, she has both.
Fueled up. You rented this truck for the business.
Yeah,
for the summer.
So it's a startup called Fair. And You pay an upfront fee, like I think it was like 800 bucks, and then you get like a monthly charge based on the truck you want. But it's like a brand, it's not brand new, but it's like a 2014 Silverado, and it's way nicer than anything else I could have gotten.
And this is a seasonal business, so you just need it for the summer.
Right. So the car is getting dumped on Tuesday. They're coming to pick it up, which is kind of legit.
So it's like September 15th or something, end of milfoil season right now?
Yeah, pretty much. There's a couple reasons behind why Lake Washington might have it. Some's urban folklore, but I'm not kidding. So like the World's Fair.
I want to hear about the urban folklore.
Yes, there's two stories. They're both kind of hilarious. So in the 1960s, when the World Fair was here, they had this like record-breaking like freshwater aquarium. And legend has it that when the exhibit was done, they just dumped the entire tank into the lake. And what this exhibit had, though, was different strands of freshwater aquatic foliage from all over the world. And so when they dumped it into the lake, it just spread the species, and 50, 60 years later, now you have a massive problem. Yes, we had a huge algae problem this year because like the lake is normally at like 75 degrees, and this year's at 77, and that slight change of temperature.
Wow, I feel like that doesn't even sound like that much of a slight change. Like for the entire lake, 75 to 77.
Yeah, it's a big difference. The lake's actually really low right now, so it's gonna be interesting to see this.
I actually noticed that because Lake Washington always used to be so like the coldest lake you would swim in, but now it's like this year was pretty warm.
It was really warm. Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
We made it. There's the lake.
Yeah, if you want to grab the tank in there. Probably 2 to 3 months prior, and it was completely up to the surface. You couldn't see anything.
Geese. So you're gonna be in a scuba suit in like 2 minutes.
You got it, man. Got to get it set up. I would recommend it.
Geared up.
Very cool.
Slight gear malfunction, just startup life.
Someone broke the wetsuit. Didn't tell me. Great.
Right? That's.
I get the Kevlar.
Oh, and you're the surface guy, right?
Baby.
Neoprene, okay. Awesome.
I know, dude.
You're looking very legit.
This is why they pay him the big bucks right here.
Right? So Joe's our diver man. He's going under. Gavin, you're chilling at the surface on that inner tube.
Mm-hmm. My job is to play.
Is that heavy?
Yeah.
So how many pounds do you think that is?
Like 60, maybe. If that. Yeah, I did.
Wait, Joe, what were you saying about the algae? Noticing some stuff on the lake bed?
Yeah, so kind of unusual this year is that the entire lake bottom is when there's no milfoil, is covered in algae. It's kind of a cat and mouse game of like, what do you want?
Milfoil or algae?
What's your use case? Are you using the waterfront? You probably want the milfoil gone because the algae was covered the lake bottom. But again, it's not necessarily the fact that algae is there is indicative there's something overall wrong with the pH or the overall temperature of the lake. But the very few people I've talked with about this has to do with the amount of pesticides used on the waterfront. So if you use a lot of pesticides on your waterfront, that beach property itself will have algae. And then the other problem is actually cities. So cities like like Kirkland in particular, and Kenmore,
Right there.
They get these permits. So every 2 years they spray their public beaches.
Oh
And,
yeah, I've heard about that. The spray.
Yeah, and basically what it does is it's one of those things where they have to change the chemical they use every year because they 1 year it gets illegal, then the next year they change it by like 1 molecule.
Aren't we swimming in this?
Yeah, so they disallow at those beaches swimming for 2 weeks, but it's not a closed ecosystem, and that's where the problem comes.
Could they hire you to clean up a beach instead of spraying?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, the only county that does that right now is Everett.
And but that's way better for the long-term ecosystem. But like, what's their cost difference there?
It's higher. It's basically like an $80,000 job will cost usually. So if it was $80,000 in like man hours and labor, it's about 20 to 30,000 for a spray. So there's like a short-term net benefit for or monetary net benefit, but though in the long term, it hurts the overall ecosystem, and it can really hurt the fish.
Ooh, look at that. Well, yummy. I feel like you could like make some biodiesel out of this. Joe, new business idea. Biodiesel. If you could recycle this and turn this into like some sort of usable asset.
It's actually great compost. So I've actually really thought this through. I've like looked at spaces. And basically the hard part is basically you're just adding a bunch of costs. There's a scale factor, and if I'm not operating out of any retail space yet, why assume more costs just to compost? I think the composting is going to come in line whenever the demand needs its own retail location, and then the business is already paying for that. Because I can't justify buying all the baking equipment and all the composting equipment and adding retail hard costs when right now I don't really have many.
Yeah, I feel it. So it's not just like free money.
No,
like yeah.
Basically. But the pitch is save the salmon milfoil, or save the salmon compost.
Yeah, save the salmon compost.
Yeah, that's the name of it.
Wow.
It's called a gas cap. Joe can help you out.
Straight out of the lake.
Straight out of the lake and onto dry land. Look at this fucking place.
Yeah, so this is the dump.
It's the dump. It's super nice.
It says
Wow.
Facebook's corporate camp out in Seattle.
Yeah, is this? It's very Brooklyn, industrial chic.
Yeah.
Garbage.
Whip, whip, whip.
No game. Woo! Electric vehicle charging at the dump. Just pretend like we're talking. Thanks for having us on the Milfoil job site. So I was thinking really quick for the hyperchangers, 90-second history of Seattle Milfoil.
So basically the breakdown is I've always been a really, really big scuba diver. That's always been my thing. And in high school I wanted to make some money, but I didn't really want to work for somebody, and I really didn't want to, you know, make the average salary doing it. I knew of this. I didn't really know how to do it, but I knew a guy who did do it. I had him train me. He went off to college. He was a little bit older, so I had him train me, and then he didn't actually make it a real business. He did it for his friends and family.
Okay.
And so what I basically did was made it an LLC. Actually put out some advertising. Actually did the whole guerrilla thing. You know, the classic door-to-door, like, hey, do you need any milfoil?
And you were doing it yourself,
Yeah,
basically.
just me. Yeah,
And
everything.
And how many? And so what? Like how many years ago was that? When you
That was
started?
this will be the end of the 8th season, so 8 years ago.
And now, how many people did you hire this summer in your 8th summer?
So it's interesting because I've tried to get rid of the business twice. I've tried to fully get rid of it because I lived in Colorado for 6 of those 8 years.
Yeah.
So how does that work? So I've been back during the summers. So basically, it's only been a serious endeavor the last two 2 years. And so basically it went from me doing all of it myself to last year having about 4 to 6 employees, and then this year I have about 10 employees doing it this year.
Yeah, and why I wanted to make this episode, and I think it's so cool because it shows like you went to school for real estate and like you have a full-time job and are doing awesome in the real estate industry, but this is like your side hustle, so to speak, at the same time that's grown. So like, from my understanding, we're not disclosing financials, but like Seattle Milfoil is profitable, like the business is growing really quickly. What advice would you have for someone who's like trying to do a side hustle?
Momentum is key. The reason it's been able to be a side hustle and have a full-time job at the same time is because there's been a little, I've added a little bit each year. And fortunately for it, you know, people do get burnt out. And quite frankly, my June to end of August, I'm working a ton. My lunches at work are 100% Milfoil. After work is Milfoil.
So it's just that hustle.
Right.
You're just like working more.
And conveniently, it's a seasonal job, so I do get about, you know, 6 months to prep for next year. And it's, you know, it's like one task a week. It's like, all right, this is my goal. What do I got to do each week to make it that? And I have 6 months to kind of play it out.
And what's so cool about Milfoil is like, yeah, you're just picking up algae out of the lake bed on some level, but in many ways, this business could evolve to be much more than that, because like we're saying, like climate change is making this a much bigger problem. This whole concept of taking care of your ecosystem and natural land and like shorefronts seems like a huge opportunity. So is that something like you would expand your business into?
So I've recently met a guy who has a PhD in lake restoration and lake health. Surprising.
CTO? Future CTO?
Yeah, so I'm actually working with him, and we're gonna try to create plans to do milfoil abatement and kind of lake management. How do you manage a whole lake ecosystem? Because there's Lake Washington, you can't really manage that as a whole. It's too big. It's the, you know, fault of the commons or whatever that.
Yeah, the tragedy of the commons. Because no one's really, yeah, which is sad.
So the real opportunity is smaller lakes. There are smaller lakes that are community owned and people have to manage them, and there are budgets to manage those lakes. And so the opportunity is going out to those lakes and figuring out how do you manage it with the natural vegetation.
Thank you so much, Joe. And I think it's awesome that like in my pitch, the Seattle Lake Department and everything is like, we should stop spraying, invest in like either Seattle Milfoil Company or other Milfoil companies to like just think more sustainably and long term about our ecosystem.
They really have to. If they don't, they will have a dead lake, and it won't be great for anybody.
Awesome. Well, thank you for showing us around.
Of course, thank you.
On the tour, Joe.
And if
we'll have you on again next time.
If you have a lakefront property, you know, give the king a ring. Give us a call for their sites. And then that way
it's like, oh, select my waterfront. Here's where I want it.
Yeah. And because of that, you can. My thought is there's definitely some sort of lake bottom material you could purposefully put into your waterfront property as a value add to kind of have as a natural milfoil abatement plan.
Right. And that's sort of the start of your expansion to shorefront management.
Exactly, into shorefront. Because honestly, at the end of the day, if you're not going to cannibalize your own business, someone else will.
Exactly.
And if you can I feel like you could sell that as like, you know, like you're abating the milfoil, and like, do you want your waterfront to be like salmon friendly, right? Like,
yeah, like you should pitch the eco. Like, how much do you sell the eco components of milfoil?
It really depends on the client, to be honest. Not all clients care. Like some have asked me.
I bet Chris doesn't give a shit.
Actually, he cares a lot more than a lot of other people do.
Oh, really?
Like, I mean, I've had some people, not to point fingers, but they're in Renton, and they've asked me to drive to Idaho to go get this like aquacide that's fucking toxic, and they want me to apply it to their lakefront, and I've told them absolutely not.
So what would you like? What's your solution to like this seeming shit show of how everybody manages their waterfront? Because it seems like it's sort of like the Wild West. Some people are spraying chemicals, some are being responsible. Like you said, tragedy of the commons. Is it like regulation that needs to happen?
I think it's two front. It's a two thing. I think there definitely does need to be some sort of regulation about no spraying. See, I'm open to spraying if there's a way to do it that doesn't have a negative effect on the environment. And there are chemicals out there that do claim they don't have negative effects. But the thing is, every year more algae shows up. There's less fish, and the water feels a little grosser. So like, I just don't buy it. So I think that's one. Two, I think they really just need to I think they need to up the budget is the problem. I think it's more of a city funding issue, and I feel like it's an allocation of resources. They just didn't allocate enough money. Basically, people think this problem should be cheaper than it is.
Yeah, and nobody wants to deal with it or pay for it.
It's kind of like the Great Ocean Patch, right? The Pacific Ocean Patch. Like it's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And so it's the same with lakes. It's out of sight, out of mind. Plus, it's Seattle. It's only sunny for fucking 2 months of the year. You know, it's a rich person problem, so not everyone really cares. But you know, it's not just a rich person problem if the whole lake's affected.
The current trajectory of what's happening with Lake Washington is it gets shittier every year.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to fix that, but
yeah,
this is probably happening at like every single lake across the country.
A really good example is American Lake down in Tacoma. They had 0 milfoil 2 years ago, and now they have literally the biggest poundage of milfoil that we removed at all. We had one site this year we removed 4,000 pounds in.
Holy shit!
It was 4,000 pounds in I think a 10-hour dive time.
And you were telling me that
that's two divers on site too. So it was 2 divers, 2 service people for 10 hours.
4,000. So that's 2 tons of milfoil. You're literally moving tons of milfoil.
Yeah, it was legitimately 4,000 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. If anyone knows any freshwater naturalists or freshwater aquatic vegetation specialists, let me know.
We have the perfect startup for them to join. I'm so bullish on the shoreline management industry. like shore management is a huge problem, and like that's my motto: the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity.
It really is.
Like the company that comes in and can make like clean up this disaster is going to be huge. I don't know if it'll be the Milfoil's King's job to tackle all of it, but like you guys are definitely doing your part.
We're definitely here to help. I mean, maybe the next move, maybe we should be the Shoreline King.
The Shoreline King.
Anything to do with shores, we got it.
Shorefront property management,
development, management, party specialist, anything on it happens on a shorefront, maybe we go into it. What's kind of funny too is so I've thought about, you know, how do we make this. One of the biggest problems is hiring employees. Why? Because it's seasonal. You can't hire people seasonally.
Yeah,
so it doesn't really work out too well. So how do you get rid of that? You get year round. So what do you do year round? What happens also on the shorefront? What do people who have waterfront property, what do they don't do in the winter? Really
use their shorefront?
Use their shorefront. So what could we do to potentially help people use their shorefront during the winter? Does that mean we go into outside heating? Does that mean we go into kind of temporary enclosures that you could heat for waterfront properties?
Oh,
you know,
I'm loving these.
Like those clear enclosed kind of tent areas?
Yeah.
Or like how could we help people utilize their waterfront space? They're paying those premiums.
So are you gonna give us any numbers on how fast you're growing or revenue or like?
So unfortunately, we can't really share all of that, but what we can say is we have, the last 2 years, we have each year tripled bottom line each year.
Is this the only company growing faster than Tesla?
I don't know, maybe. No. So next year, you know, we're trying to hit that 3x minimum. That's the goal.
Love it. All right, guys, 10:30 a.m. back at my house. Crazy day, crazy morning. Had a ton of fun with Joe and the team. First-hand look at Seattle Milfoil. I know this episode's a little bit different than I usually make, but I thought it was cool on a ton of different levels. I mean, Joe's a humble guy. I don't think he explains just, you know, how incredibly successful this business is, or just as a side hustle, watching him start it through high school, run it through college, while having a full-time job and having a great career in real estate, to be able to do this business on the side and grow it at the same time is like an awesome story of just entrepreneurial hustle and how you can like put work in and have this, like, I don't know, it just makes me so excited to see my friends doing that. And I hope it inspires you guys to think outside the box about different businesses that can start super, super small, but if you just grow it and build and keep working, can be really exciting stuff. And on the flip side, I thought it was so fascinating because, you know, yes, it's such a simple business. They're picking up algae from the bottom of the lake, but it's such a microcosm of a huge, you know, thing that Hyperchange is about, which is documenting this change of humans are polluting and changing the natural world at an unprecedented rate. You know, what are the consequences of that? We have no idea. I think there's so many challenges and issues we face in managing, you know, the natural ecosystem and things like lakes and shorefronts and the salmon population and all the other wildlife that's living in the lake is tremendously affected by what we're doing, and I learned a ton about that today. And I think Seattle Milfoil as a business is on the front lines of trying to make our lakefronts better in some way. And so I love that angle of the business too. Would love to get all your comments, feedback, questions. If you have any business ideas for Joe, definitely leave it below. Also, if you like the channel, definitely check out our Patreon page and consider supporting. I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Here.
There's a Nelson in training.
So this is the future of the company right here.
Right here, Nelson. Nelson. He's gonna swim out, grab the milfoil, and put it in piles.
So Nelson, what's your top priority for growth next year?
Let's see. Yeah, it's a good idea, doggy.
Hey,